Hey, it's Garsen again, and in the last video I showed off a fighter that has no real strength or dex, but actually uses wisdom to fight using the Shillelagh right here. So, I got it wrong a little bit, and a viewer kind of pointed it out, which is great because I was able to fix this. I wanted to show it off real quick, and it relates to a topic that I find really interesting. Every character here is running off of a melee build, but they're using primarily their charisma or wisdom, and you can even use intelligence if you wanted to build it that way. So what we're going to do is a quick little chaotic example, see what happens if we use all of our nerds here to beat up and cause some town chaos, right? Alright, check it out. Here we go. See what happens. Bonk. Sure did. Let's get to it. Alright, so Asterion here, he's pretty cool. If he goes and bonks somebody, and I said if he bonks somebody, he does massive damage with his charisma, and then he can actually hold somebody down so everybody else can beat the crap out of him. There we go. Anybody else want to get stuck? Nah, okay, cool. Here we go. Alright, and that's pretty great. Now, let's see what happens. Get an opportunity attack. Hit him with our club for 12 damage, pretty cool. Get another hit in, sweet. Alright, nice try, Watcher. Jumps over like a frog. What was that jump? AI always I love the AI. Okay. Well, since, you know, these guys are stuck, they're about to get walloped, we're going to use the Harmonic Dueler, a personal favorite. Going to use a personal favorite cantrip of mine, or a mod. This is the only mod showing casing. Look at that. Kaboom! Oh my god. Just kaboom! You gone. Alright. Chihiro, what do you got for us? Oh, you're gonna get smacked? Not today. Cool. Let's see if she can use Ensnare on her sword. She's using Wisdom with her Sylvan Scimitar. Bopped him. There we go. Alright, Will, what do you got for us? Ah, the Searing Smite. Well, this is gonna hurt. Sorry, buddy. Goodbye. Just the casual 30, 23, and all that. Alright, very good. Very good. And then Minnie, go ahead. I want you to see. Let's do some menacing attacks. Whoa, bam. And let's make sure we really hit him. Okay. And you go, whoa, bam. Alright. We can even action surge. Commander's Strike. How about... Who's next up? Who's next up? Probably Asterion again. So Commander's Strike. Get one more hit in. Bop this guy. Bop this guy again. Whoa, oh, we got one more strike for Will here. Get him. Use all your fire infusion. Oh yeah, there's this guy. My bad. Shield! That's the nerd way of defense. Perfect. Good job. You can see like all these arcane synergies going off. Alright, what about this? Can we bop him? Bam! Can we hold him down? Whoa, bam! And another whoa, bam! Alright, good to go. Oh shit, run away. Sorry guys. Oh, and one last cleave. How about one last cleave? Ready? Here we go. Goodbye. Nice damage. Well, bye. There we go. Good job, nerds. And I mean that as a compliment. Alright, so let's actually reload this real quick. Pop over this. Alright, so real quick, let's pop out some notes. We'll go over some the topic here. But first, I actually want to give a shout out to B44 DSSS, right? And real quick, let me actually show you the comment. So in the last video, I was actually chit-chatting. I kind of blundered a little bit, and thanks to B44, he told me what was going on, and we'll go over this, but wisdom always comes from damage on Shillelagh, and the spellcasting is what covers the accuracy. Alright, so thanks for that. Little shout out to you, but we'll get back to the topic at hand. Come on over here. So, for my sake, I actually have to lower this volume. But yeah, let's get into the greater topic, shall we? So, meleeing with your mind. Right, we're using our spellcasting modifier as our attack and damage roll on weapons, right? I gave my shout out to B44. But let's actually move on to what is spellcasting modifier, right? So spellcasting modifier is derived from your mental stats, like in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. If you don't know your modifier, it's your stat minus 10 divided by 2 is the easiest way I could calculate it for you. So if we actually like run over here, look at mini stat, that would be a +5, or you could just cheat and look at this. All right, so what you can do is, it's very important for spellcasting, obviously, but you can, it's determined by your class chosen, and we'll get into that, but there's ways to use it for your attack and damage rolls with weapons, just like strength and dexterity. So that's the topic of the video. Go figure. Each class actually has a spellcasting modifier, so just a quick list for you. If you're talking about intelligence, it's only found on wizard, fighter, and rogue. If we're doing wisdom, it's cleric, druid, and ranger, and monk. And then charisma has the most with barbarian, bard, paladin, sorcerer, and warlock, right? But the rule with spellcasting modifier is your first level of your latest class, right? This is no problem in pure classes, but Mini's a good example of this, right? Mini is a fighter mostly, but one level of druid in order to get the spellcasting modifier to be wisdom instead of intelligence, right? But the way that works is I can do this in any number of variations, but as long as druid is the last class I chose out of fighter and druid. If I chose fighter first, I would be stuck on intelligence, which is not what I want, right? So an example, a fighter who takes 5 levels and multi-classes into a druid for another 5 levels, and then multi-classes into barbarian for another 2 levels. Since barbarian was the last class, charisma would be my spellcasting modifier, because if we look at the charisma list, barbarian is based off of charisma, right? So this is a very important rule. So once again, if you're trying to do this, just keep in mind the latest class is the one you choose latest, right? It only has to be the first level of that class though, okay? So the first level of the latest class you choose is going to be what determines the spellcasting modifier. So in our case with Mini right here, it would be fighter. As long as I took 1 level of druid after the 1 level of fighter, I'm good with wisdom. I can reverse that if I want intelligence, right? So you can always choose the right spell mod with the right order as long as you follow that rule. So let's get into something like why. Why would we even do this? Well, it gives a spellcaster like melee options, right? So just we're jumping ahead here a little bit, but let's see. Oh, I don't have like a pure example. Say a wizard wanted to have like, you know, use his intelligence in order to bop somebody with his quarterstaff, and just didn't have a way to do that. So if he somehow had a way to use his intelligence to use a melee combat, he wouldn't have to blow a spell slot, or he could actually defend himself. Obviously, the most interesting thing is interesting hybrid builds, like we've shown with Mini here, who has the fighter with a little bit of druid. So it's like a grove fighter. You could actually ramp this up with a little more druid and less fighter and really do a cool hybrid build spellcaster, right? And then obviously for flavor and style, I don't think any of these builds except maybe Asterion here. Asterion is built, I've used this on an honor mode run. It was an amazing face character, but you know, it doesn't always have to be the strongest character, because it's all about, you know, it's cool. Duh, it's cool. You can mechanically do this, right? So you might be doing it because it's flavor or style, or you're trying to build a specific role-playing character, or it's just cool on a mechanical level, duh, right? So I'm going to go into the examples now from the characters you saw. We're just going to break them down, but let's start off first with Shillelagh. I'm always going to say this wrong, I don't care. So what inspired this video is the Shillelagh. I wanted to talk about this topic anyway, and there was a lot of cool examples, but the one I kind of goofed up on the last video is trying to make a almost pure fighter. That means 11 fighter means 3 attacks, right? You can use your bonus action even if you just started combat. You can buff a club or quarterstaff, right? And it will use your spellcasting modifier as your attack rolls. So the little detail that our friend gave us, you know, shout out real quick, sorry, B44. So B44 corrected us on this. So just so you know, it's a druid cantrip. You have to get it from the druids, druid initiate. It's honestly probably better to just go 1 level into druid so that your spellcaster modifier lines up. But the details here is you can only use clubs and quarterstaffs. The damage is always going to come from your wisdom modifier, okay? So +5 there. But your accuracy would be whatever your spell modifier was. What was happening in the video last time is I had high intelligence, not so high wisdom. So it was accurate from intelligence, but the damage not so much. Now, since we did it correctly, our spellcasting modifier is wisdom, so it will use both our wisdom for both accuracy and damage as if it was a melee weapon using strength or dex. That's pretty cool, considering if you go the club route like I did, there's actually a cool interaction with the Ironwood Club. Ironwood Club gets an extra like 1d4 roll for going Shillelagh, and Shilly also boosts the damage up, not just from your modifier, but I think it improves certain weapons damages. Like, I think quarterstaves go up to like 1d8 or 1d10 or something like that. But yeah, quarterstaves would be a two-handed option. So if you want to beat people over the head with a quarterstaff, you can also go for that. If you're just a druid, that's why they give it to you, kind of a backup, but you can also design a build around it, which is pretty cool, right? So for 10 turns, you can use your bonus action. If you started combat, you would just pop it with your bonus action. You didn't waste your action of 3 attacks on this build. That's pretty cool. But yeah, best to use it on a wisdom focused character, or best to use it as an extra option in the early game or even later for druids, so they have some kind of like melee combat. Casters kind of don't have their stuff getting going on until like the mid game, in my opinion, so it's actually really helpful. There's also some wacky stuff you can do with Shilly and dual wielding, but there's videos out there, go check it out. I wanted to do something more like focused on the concept of I don't need dex, I don't need strength, I can do full heavy armor from fighter, and then I can use my wisdom for maybe like perception rolls or what is it? Oh man, I'm forgetting. Why am I forgetting this stuff? Yeah, insight rolls, duh. Perception and insight rolls. But I can also use it as my main attacking force. And here's a cool synergy. The poisoner set. So you get magical poison damage applied whenever you're healed. You also get a little extra accuracy from the Whispering Promise. When you poison something, your damage potentially can poison stuff. When you poison stuff, you get healed. And if you get healed, you get another round of poison damage on the weapon. So kind of cool. Kind of thematic for someone running around with like nature's force and wisdom, druid inspired, right? Pact Weapon. All right, let's talk about Pact Weapon. I love Warlock. I did plenty of Warlock builds. This is probably my favorite class, but Pact Weapon is one of the reasons why, even in the vanilla game, Warlock's one of my favorites. You don't even have the Hexblade like mod installed or anything like that, just the vanilla game. You can be a full Warlock, right, and actually have a pretty cool class. But let's talk about it for a second. At level 3 Warlock, you get 3 choices of packs. So you pick the Pact Weapon or Pact of the Blade in order to have Pact Weapon options. So what it does is it changes like any weapon. For instance, let's actually just pop this over and we'll pop Pact Weapon. And then we'll switch back. The only reason I'm saying this is because you may not even be proficient with the weapon, but any melee weapon, whether you're proficient with it or not, so really good on a pure Warlock, right? If we just pop Pact Weapon, right? Instead of this now scaling from strength, it'll scale with my charisma, and I'm no longer not proficient with it. I can just gain proficiency with the weapon I'm using, like we're best buddies now, okay? And now it's going to be operating off of charisma for my attack and accuracy rolls. That's why I'm hitting kind of like a truck. This is a little overgeared. So yeah, it allows an awesome martial Warlock all game. You can use this, you know, early in Act 1 all the way through the rest of the game, and never have to multi-class. At level 12, you get Life Drinker, which uses your charisma for necrotic damage, and a little synergy bonus here is Asterion, Ascended Asterion gets necrotic damage as well in the late game. So you can be hitting some pretty hard numbers with a pure melee Warlock. I find that pretty cool. But yeah, it's powerful on Lock, Pally, multi-class. Extremely powerful on Tactician or lower because you can actually get triple attack with this combo. It's very popular for multi-builds, again, on Tactician or lower because of the multiple hits. But what's popular about it is the need to just focus on one stat. So this is your face stat for dialogue rolls, a few other benefits, but also now it's your damaging stat. And since you're focusing on charisma, and you have the potent robes, and you're a Warlock, you can have one of the best cantrips in the game, and this is Lying to us because we actually don't get +6. We actually get +12 from our charisma because we have this like stacked. Really cool synergy here, just covering the build for a second. You could have a really good ranged attack and cantrip in the form of Eldritch Blast, right? Operates off your charisma, does force damage, pushes targets, pretty good. You can have Great Weapon Master, so you can bonk people pretty hard with 10 extra damage. You're pretty accurate because you're using your charisma for your accuracy, not just your damage. You can get this up to 24 charisma. And Potent Robe, oh yeah. So Arcane Synergy, we'll talk about this in a moment, but Arcane Synergy adds even more charisma onto our attacks. And then Mystic Scoundrel allows it so when we make an attack with our weapon, we can actually use a enchantment spell like Hold Monster, Hold Person. And then just generally, I think the coolest thing about a Martial Warlock is you don't need to wear armor to have a lot of armor class. You can just find pieces of gear that are very uncommon, like Bracers of Defense early in the game, Evasive Shoes, and Cloak of Protection in Act 2. So really cool things. And again, we're not using any strength. Dex is just a little bit of Dex for initiative and armor class, but it's not really anything else. Okay, well, speaking of Arcane Synergy, let's actually focus on Arcane Synergy. So there's two ways to actually get it. There's the ring, like here on Asterion, and there's a helmet. But what it does effectively is when you meet the conditions of the helmet or the ring, you add Arcane Synergy buff for like 2 turns, and it will apply your spellcasting modifier to your weapon attacks, ranged or melee, doesn't matter. This is good in general, like say you had a strength or dex character with good wisdom or intellect or something, and it was their spellcasting modifier was pretty high, you can add bonus damage onto those weapons. What I've done here is just taken it to its natural synergy by having a character that's already using charisma and then just doubling up on it, right? But there's a helmet that we have, I believe, on Gale. Yep, so the helmet, if you meet the condition, so helmet activates whenever you apply a condition. A good way to use this helmet is Ability Drain. It's probably the best way to use it because any, main character can have it. So a couple worms in your head and you can use the awesome Arcane Synergy helmet. Because anytime you hit somebody, you now automatically apply Ability Drain, which counts as the effect, so that Arcane Synergy is almost always up the whole fight. Then of course the ring, as I said, a good synergy is a Warlock because you're probably blasting off with Eldritch Blast all the time, which means your next melee attack is going to be empowered even more by your charisma. But there's different ways you can also be using this ring. But yeah, Arcane Synergy is super useful, very popular. I'm like obsessed with Arcane Synergy. Next, I just want to go over some unique weapons before we end it, but there is a few weapons where you don't have to do any crazy class combos or pick up certain skills. There is the Infernal Rapier. You get this in Act 2. It's during Will's class, or story rather. So you have to have Will in your party at a certain point and do a certain mini quest. But that, keep in mind, it's not that hard to get. But you do have to use Will. I don't know why this isn't showing anymore. Hold on. Glitches. Okay, so the Infernal Rapier, what it does is it says specifically that instead of your Dexterity modifier, this Rapier will now use your Spellcasting modifier on attack rolls. But it doesn't mention this, but it's also damage rolls. So what I did here was I made like a Fire Paladin or a Hell Knight, a little bit of Paladin, a little bit of Sorcerer. I get to use all of my Charisma, so I can just drop Dex and Strength. I don't need to go Warlock, and I can still use my Charisma stat for, like, again, face of the party. I can be intimidating or persuasive, but I can also use my Charisma on my attack rolls. And Sorcerer gives a boost to my fire spells. There's the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation giving my Charisma bonus to my spells as well. So there's different benefits to here, but again, just a different example. I can make a sort of character based around using my spell modifier for like a fiery thematic Hell Knight kind of thing, and I didn't have to like go into Warlock or Druid to get the other two skills. Another weapon similar to that, you get it from Jaheira after you complete Act 2, I think. Then she finally decides to join you for reals, and you get the Sylvan Scimitar from her. You can use it on her, you can use it on anybody. You only get one copy of these, sadly. I would love to dual wield 2 of these, but This means there's another option where, again, instead of your dexterity modifier, your attack and damage rolls are now using your wisdom, right? Or any spellcasting modifier. So what I did here was a ranger that's primarily focused on wisdom. And this is just like proof of concept, I guess. I was focusing more on casting like spike growth or ensnaring strike. But yeah, just trying to give you some ideas of what you could do with these unique weapons and like how they might come together. And then finally, the Harmonic Dueler, which is a pretty cool rapier, but I think I've shown this in a different video. The the Dueler is amazing if you have something like Scorching Slash. This is a mod that adds melee cantrips, and what this will do is instead of innately having like charisma modifier on the weapon, you're still a dex finesse weapon, you know, but it comes with the mellow harmony. So if you can pass a performance check, so you know, really increase, like get expertise on your performance, but if you pass a performance check when activating this, then every short rest you can get 10 turns of harmonize, which just adds your charisma modifier onto your, you know, melee attacks, your weapon attacks. So this is pretty awesome because naturally you can get a lot of synergy. I've shown this off before, but you can get you could do, oh man, I have the wrong freaking go figure, I didn't have that set up correctly. You can get Necklace of Elemental Augmentation, you can get the Potent Robes, you can get the Harmonic Dueler, and you could be a sorcerer, and that's 4 times 5 on your charisma modifier when using this cantrip. Pretty crazy, pretty wild. Oh, and there's also Arcane Synergy. That's, damn son, that's a lot. So yeah, you could be really setting up a lot of your charisma on your melee attack for like a super, almost smite levels of damage with that setup. But I think that's going to cover it. Like I said, hopefully this kind of inspires you. Just think outside the box. Again, if I could just wrap this up, I think it's just kind of cool that there's so many ways to kind of manipulate the stats to do what you want with it. It's cool that there's mechanics in the game that supports this kind of play style or gives you breathing room to try out things and, you know, make a pretty flavorful character, or, you know, you're capable of doing anything you want, really. But that's going to about wrap it up. Thanks, Minnie, for giving me another chance to redeem you, and thanks to our friend one more time, B44. You're awesome, bro. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll check you out in the next video.